It's a story as old as time, man.
Right.
My name is Ryan, and this is my video out. My name is Ryan, and I guess my pronouns is he. I regular cis, I guess. So, and I identify as gay. Well, I've been in San Antonio my whole life, in Texas. My whole family's here. It was challenging in Texas. Growing up was kind of challenging with a lot of brothers too. I had four older brothers and two older sisters, and being the youngest out of all of them, it was kind of challenging being in that environment of family, and then as well as being in Texas, compounded on top of that. And I think it was hard, but I think it kind of toughened me up for the person that I am today. So I think it's all the pros and cons, right? All how you look at everything. It was not me particularly that they would give grief to. It was like everyone, like just because, brothers and stuff like that. Very much stereotypical, like, for lack of a better word, like toxic masculinity type thing, right? We'd play like football and stuff, and there'd be games like Smear the Queer. They didn't understand what they were saying at the time, Now, everyone in my family is super supportive, but at the time, like, you were very much a product of your environment, and that's what made it harder. It's like you don't want to be a target growing up in Texas, where very conservative for the most part. I mean, it's getting better now, and with a Hispanic family, it's just like it was both compounded on to where it's like, well, I have these feelings, can't really explore them right now. So it's pretty much that stuff. I think it was like in middle school, but it was one of those things where, like, I had a girlfriend, and then like I felt like just not the same for it, and I say it as a relationship, not it as the person. I didn't feel the same way for our relationship as I felt like I was something missing. But I think it was one of those things where it's like, maybe it's just I don't want to be in a relationship. So in middle school, I was just like, well, I'm just not going to date, and I'll deal with that another time. So I kind of put it off, just because I guess I just didn't want to deal with it. And then in high school is when I actually started developing feelings for someone, and it was terrible. But that's how it like was for sure. Like how it was like that's how I knew. Like, oh, okay, it's because I'm gay. So I mean, it was very. If you see like any type of movie where it's like like a star-crossed lover type thing, but it's like. But I don't mean it in like the romantic sense. I mean it like in a dumb sense. And what I mean by that is like two people know they like each other, but the other person doesn't want to deal with all like the the drama of like being gay, so he hides who he really is. So with me, I'm a very like generous, giving person, right? So I was understanding like, oh well, he just doesn't want to be out or whatever. But it was a very toxic relationship because it would be behind closed doors would be one thing, and in the public it would be like we were like didn't really know each other, just friends, So it was tough, but it taught me a lot about myself and a lot of what I'm willing to put up with, But yeah, it got really escalated to the point to where he pretty much told his mom like, oh, like he's like stalking me, and I'm like, whoa, that's not the case at all, especially because we were like living together at one point in time, So yeah, that's what I mean when it's terrible. But it's those things that like they suck at the time, but now in retrospect, they kind of prepare you for other situations that may come in life. So, I didn't even tell him anything. It was just one of those things where it's like we don't talk about it. It's understood that after whatever goes on between us, behind closed doors, like. We don't talk about it. So no, the first person that I guess found out, because I didn't really tell anyone, the first person that found out was my mom, because the whole thing with him telling his mom, and then like the principal got involved, and then like I had to change schools. It was like a whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Like it was a whole thing, and it really could have just been alleviated just by being honest with yourself and You know, maybe if it wasn't something for him, just like, hey, you know, try it, not working out, but just that open dialogue, which I think is important for not just my situation, but every situation in general, is having those tough conversations, having those open dialogues, creating those safe space. The fact that we didn't have that is why what happened to me happened, right? I don't hate anyone or anything like that. I understand where they were at that time, you know? But I think it's, like I said at the beginning, very much a product of the environment, right? Well, I mean, it's not too, I guess the good thing about me, right? I feel like I had it a little easier than other people, just because I feel like it wasn't like a complete 180 lifestyle change, right? A lot of people who are LGBTQ, they have to hide aspects of themselves, you know, a fear of ridicule. Really, the only aspect of me that I had to hide was that, you know, that the person that I love is going to be another man. Nothing about me like changed, you know, fundamentally, except now people know something new about me, you know. So I kind of did have it easy. I feel like the only thing that really changed is that I can be more open with the people that I have in my life as far as like romantic, you know, with a romantic intent. So like right now, I have a boyfriend, so I can freely talk about it. That's pretty much it. I mean, I still like video games. I still, you know, play basketball, all the other stuff. And I think that also is a shock for some people because it's like they're thinking like, oh, once you come out, like everything's gonna change. Like some people think that, like the outside people. Like my mom was one of them. Like she thought my room was gonna be clean immediately after I came out, but it's like that's not how it works. It's just now you know another aspect of my life to fully get to know me like completely holistically, right? So yeah, it wasn't too much of a change, but it's nice to not have to dance around the pronoun game, right? It's one of the things growing up, being gay. You had to be like, oh, you know, that I'm dating someone, or you know, like, oh, I went out on a date and they were really good looking. It's like the pronoun thing, right? To not out yourself. So it's really nice and comforting to not have to do that anymore. I think it's two things, right? One is the fear of dialogue from both sides, right? I feel like a lot of people, I think you hear it a lot where it's like, well, I don't want to teach my kids about, you know, gay people, right? It's like a sticky situation, which it's not just that too. It's like people have trouble talking to their kids about sex stuff in general. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of things that people just have uncomfortabilities talking about because it's just an uncomfortable topic for them. So I think creating a safe space to have those dialogues is a big problem because, you know, people want to immediately assume like LGBT as like something adult rated, right? Or something like that, or an adult theme, but it's really not, and it shouldn't be looked at as, you know, something like different. It should just be looked at as something that just occurs, you know, that's just normal, you know. So I think that's a big problem that people face, and I think another problem is the media, right? I feel like there's a lot of shows and media, movies, and things like that where they have a gay character, right, and they're very specific in the niche that they fill, right? Which I think that there are some people that act and talk that way, but I don't think it's very diverse and very telling of what the gay community is. It's like, oh, you get a gay friend who's really sassy and that's what we're going to put in TV and people are going to love them, right? You think of like Modern Family, right? And they try, which I think is really great that they get visibility, right? But I think sometimes a lot of jokes come from the femininity of them, which I'm not too crazy about because it's like, it's kind of like making fun of the stereotype, you know? And even when they try to do something like masculine, like, oh, you know, but he's like also was in football, but they still off play it, but like, yeah, but he's feminine, so it's funny, right? I think one of the shows that did it really well was a show called Happy Endings. There's a character called Max on there, and when I was growing up and I saw him on there's like a character I've never seen before, but I identified very much with him. That, you know, he did just, you know, nothing stereotypical. And it just so happens that he was gay, you know, which I very much identified with, you know. And I feel like a lot of people, and I get this a lot whenever I, introduce myself to someone and we know each other for a while, we start talking and they ask me about my personal life and I talk about my boyfriend. I usually get like, oh, well, I couldn't tell you were gay, right? And the reason being they couldn't tell is because all of their, I guess, what they assume gay people are come from either the people that are around them, right? Which is totally fair, but a lot of it comes from media, right? And that's what gay people are to them. So if media can show how more diverse we are and how we don't fit into certain stereotypes and niches, although I think it's great that there are people that are like that, so it's great to have that, but I think it's just oversaturated, so everyone starts thinking that that's the norm for gay people.
I just think it's funny too whenever you get like a gay character, right, and he's portrayed by a straight character, a straight person in real life, right, real straight in real life, but then when they're portraying a gay person, you can tell that they're like kind of being more feminine or being different than they really are, but that's not what they're looking for. You know what I mean? They're just wanting you to be you, but just as a gay person. But they have it in their mind, oh, I got to be more softer or more feminine, because that's what I associate with gay people. And I just want it to be that it's way more than that. It's way more than just a specific stereotype that one person has. And yeah, it does really get me upset too whenever we have like gay actors, but they usually get straight people to play gay people. That's a whole other thing, though.
Yeah.
I think what gives me hope is seeing the younger generation and the things that they're standing up for, right? And how they're speaking up against the status quo. I like that. A lot of times no one wants to be the outsider or be the person to cause a ruckus or cause a stir. I think it's good that people know that you do that to be on the right side of history, right? They don't just want to go with the norms of oppressing people or being oppressed and things like that. So that gives me a lot of hope. And then I would say too, a big one is companies like Hulu, like that put diversity and inclusion in the forefront of their company. That gives me a lot of hope, because that's like, even though like I feel like some companies, I don't feel like Hulu does this at all, because I think Hulu is really genuine about it. But even though some companies do it right because it's like a flex for them, like, look how much diversity and inclusion are. Even if it is that, like, it's still good that they have that, right? That they're trying that. Might not be the best reason. Maybe it'll get fixed along the way. But just the fact that it's that important that they have to do that, like, I'm really hopeful about that, because that's putting a spotlight on something that really it felt like no one cared about, and it just goes beyond, this is the amount of Hispanics we have, this is the amount of Black people we have. Now it's like, this is the amount of LGBTQ people, this is the amount of women we have. It's they're looking past the easy ones, right? So that makes me really hopeful, and I'm really happy to, despite all the like you're saying, political climate and all that and divisiveness and stuff like that. I feel like people know where they want to be, and it's going to be on the right side of history for the most part, right? So that's what makes me really hopeful. Yeah, so We Are All Hooligans, the way that what it means to me, and the way that I guess I carry that in my everyday life here as a hooligan, right, is it just allows me to be my most authentic self. I kind of harkens back to something I said before. Like, if I'm ever talking about, I went out with my boyfriend yesterday, I can say that freely, and I won't get any like gasps or side glances or stuff like that. If I wanted to do something like this, right, it won't be looked at as weird. It's like kind of championed, and it makes you feel like pride, right? Which is what we try to do, right? To feel proud about what you are and what you do. So that's how the whole We Are All Hooligans helps me be my most authentic self in the office every day. Like, I feel just championed by Hulu to be my most truest version of myself. So that's probably what I have to say about that. I think this is gonna sound funny, but I think my favorite part about being me is like breaking the norm and like shattering people's expectations. Like I said, the question I get a lot is like, "Oh, I didn't even know you were gay," right? And I love that, because it kind of breaks the reality, right? It's like now they can see, well, I can't just automatically assume anything. And that's, I think, is a great mindset to go through in life, you know, just not assuming things and taking them as they come, and knowing that you know, it's not, everything's not at face value, right? And it kind of makes your mind more open. So I'm super happy about that for myself. I would probably say it's also funny, because, like I said, with people saying like, "Well, I didn't even know you were gay" and things like that, I do end up running into some people that do still carry over that toxic masculinity, and maybe will say something kind of, you know, they think it's funny and joking, like about a LGBTQ person, and it's always funny to see the look in their face. We're like, well, you know what? Well, actually, you know, I'm gay, and it's just like to see all the color drain from their face. 'Cause it's not like one of like I gotcha moment, because I'm not gonna be like ridiculing them, but it's like, hey, I get it. I would just kind of educate them, like, hey, I would just, you know, be careful because you never know, you know. So I think that's what makes me most proud about myself, and like about most happy being myself, you know, because I'm able to do those things in a non-confrontational way. It's just one of those things, like, because those embarrassing moments stick with people, right? So they think about it like, you know, I probably shouldn't be like that, or I should probably watch what I say. So I would probably have to say that.